Y'all know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker. And welcome back to the show, y'all. This is Penitentiary Hustle. This is part 3 right here, y'all. Listen to me. The gig is up. The gig is up. But the administration, they don't make no move immediately, right? Because I'm going to tell you something about these folks, right? When they get their hooks into you, they want somebody to answer for that. Because now they're looking into the situation. They've been embarrassed. They want to know how long this has been going on. They want to know who all is involved in it. And the peon, he's giving all of that up, right? But they put him back on the compound because they don't want nobody to know what's going on. He's told them everything that has happened. He's told them everything that they are demanding that he do. And guess what they tell him to do? Go back to the compound. But you ain't going to be able to make no more moves. Well, now this is what they want him to do, though. They want him to wear a wire and set up the office. And then they're going to break the officer, right? But he tells them, man, I can't do that. And they tell him, look here, you either going to do it or you going to the hole and we're going to charge you based on the information that you've already provided. Now, let me tell you something. They don't care nothing about his addiction. They don't care nothing about his life being in danger. What they care about is that he was part of a scheme to take stuff back to the compound that had been busted in a shakedown, and they're going to make him pay for it by choice or by force. He volunteered the information. He the one that took it to them. So all of this, don't y'all care about me, I can get killed and all this and that. What they say to you about that is this, y'all. You should have thought about that when you decided to do it. And that's a good point to make. See, a lot of people don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that part of it. You should take into consideration what could happen to you if you get caught doing whatever it is that you're doing. And then you ask yourself, can you handle that? Can you stand that smoke? Can you handle it? Because if you can't stand that smoke, then stay out the kitchen. Because when it gets hot, it gets hot. And when them folks get ready to do what they gonna do, man, I'm telling you, man, they'll show you a whole new face, man. This peon been going out there putting in work for them and talking to them, and they've been telling them how good of a job he's been doing and all this and that, and now they treat him like the enemy of the people. And you know what I mean by that. So he reluctantly decides to cooperate because now he ain't got no choice. But before he does that, he makes a fatal move. He makes a fatal move. He goes and he says something to Jack. He tells Jack, man, look, let me tell you what he said. Listen to me, y'all. He go tell Jack, he said, look, everything gonna be all right in a minute. I got something up. Just lean back. He said, we ain't gonna have to worry about them no more. Now see, that's that addict coming out of it. See, he can't even think straight. He's thinking after he does this, those gang members are going to be gone. And they're not going to be a threat to him or Jack anymore. Now, Jack know better. Jack know better. Jack tell him, he said, man, what you got going on? Because see, now Jack, he got to play both ends too. He said, what you got going on? He said, man, I can't tell you. He said, man, you need to tell me what's going on, man. He said, man, I couldn't take it, man. They putting the pressure down on me. They telling me I better do this and I better do that. And if I don't do it, they gonna get me and you. So I went to the administration. I told them what's going on. Jack looked at him and leaned back in the chair. He said, man, what you do that for? Then he put his hands over his face. See, a lot of people do that when they get nervous. Why do we do that, y'all? Why do we just cover up our face and then put our head down between our legs and be like, like you want to scream? Why do we do that? Because that's what Jack did. He leaned down, and then when he raised his head up, he looked at me. He said, man, what kind of games you playing? And then the dude looks at him, the peon looks at him. He said, man, we going to be straight, man. After I do this, we going to be straight. He said, man, don't do it, man. He said, man, if I don't do it, they going to charge me. He said, man, don't do it. Don't do it. And he said, if you do it, don't have me involved in none of it. He said, man, you ain't involved in nothing. He said, but if I don't do this, man, the gang's going to get me and you. And if I don't do it for the administration going to get me. He said, man, so I'm helping both of us. That's the addict talking. So Jack, he get up and he walk away from him. He wash his hands of it, right? But he don't know what he should do. He don't know if he should warn the gang or not. But he starts to think about it. He said, man, I can't warn them because they might get me on spot. And said, and if I do warn them and then the administration find out that I'm warning them, I'm going to get in trouble. He said, so his best bet was to just walk away and act like he don't know nothing to see what happens. So that's what he did. So the peon, after a couple of days, the peon goes to work. He in the admin building. They done got the administration, done got the IA people from downtown, the big boys, and then they got the police involved, right? They got the police involved because they got somebody that's a part of their staff that's dirty. They got the peon wired up. Yeah, he wired up like he at a concert or something. Got wires all over the place. So he goes in the office and he tells the officer, he said, man, look here, man, what we gonna do? And he runs down the whole scenario about what the gangs done told him that he needs to do and all this and that, right? And then the officer says, man, sit down and don't worry about that. We're not gonna do anything else until the heat dies down. Oh, look here, y'all. Listen, wait a minute, hold up. That's all they needed to hear. Then they sitting out there, they tell them, move in. And then that tech team, they rush up in there and they grab him. He looking at him, he said, what's going on? Get your hands off me. And they tell him, hold on, put your hands behind your back. They click and click, put the handcuffs on him, then they grab the peon. And when they grab the peon, they tell him, you sit down over there and don't you move. And then one of the techs come in. When the tech come in, they tell the peon, take your shirt off. When he raises his shirt up and he pulling his shirt off, the officer see the wire on him. The officer just put his head down in his hand. Like I told you, you know how we do when we panic? The officer just put his head down between his, headed toward his legs, but he put his head in his hands. And he's like, ah! What are you doing? And the peon just looked at him, blank stare. Don't know what to say. Then the officer, he said, they threatened me. First thing came out of his mouth, they threatened me. But the staff and the warden that walked in by then, they said, man, we don't want to hear that. You tell us everything and we'll let you go home today. And we'll deal with you later. Oh, he started spilling the beans like he done knocked it over with his foot coming through the house with the groceries in his hand. Spilling the beans. Telling everything and how long you been doing and who all you been doing it with. Next thing you know, they send them boys to the compound. Whoop, they grab Jack first. Wait a minute, the gang, everybody looking like, what's going on? They got Jack, what's going on? They come back and they get the gang members. Every gang member that had a phone or done got some dope, all of that, they came and got all of them. All of them. All of them in the back, they're in the hole. Now Jack decides he wants to talk. Now he wants to talk. He's next door to one of the gang members that is next door to the head of the gang, right? You understand what I'm saying? So he tells the gang member, he said, look, it's the peon. He the key to all this. He the one told it. So the gang member tell the head of the gang tell the gang member, say, ask him, how does he know that? See, because let me tell you something about these gangs. The gang members, for the most part, not all the time, they understand it. You play, you pay if you get caught. So that's how they rolling with this. So the gang leader looking at it like, it said, we had a good run. He didn't care. He didn't care. This is how he get down. This is what he pledged his life to. He didn't care nothing about none of that. They ship him somewhere else, he gonna be fine. He get out of the hole, he gonna be fine. You feel me? They charge him, he gonna be fine. This is a part of the lifestyle. That's another reason why I tell you, don't be playing with that lifestyle. Because if you don't understand the fullness of that lifestyle, you're gonna find yourself getting a rude awakening when they give you all the time that your back can carry and then some more. You're gonna be in here for the rest of your life playing games because you're loyal to something that don't even exist. Stop it. So when the gang member asks Jack how you know that, he tells him like a fool. See, man, the peon came to me, man, and he told me, man, what he was getting ready to do. Now, he tells this to the gang member. The gang member tells the head of the gang, and the head of the gang tells the gang member. He said, man, keep talking to him. Get all the information you can out of him, right? Because he part of it. Then he should have came and said something to us so we could have cleaned up. Because by them not having advance warning and being able to clean up, they got caught with all kind of other stuff, drugs and phones and everything. And it jeopardized everything. Now, Jack's life ain't worth 2 dead flies. Because now they're looking at him like, if you knew this and you didn't tell it, you just as bad as the dude that did the telling. Hold up now. Did you hear what I just said? They required him to tell them ahead of time, or he's just as bad as the dude that did the telling. Ain't no way out. Ain't no way out. See, that's what the game will do to you. That's what the game will do to you. You have to live up to standards that's going to protect the people that got the power to do something to you. What their expectations are is what matters, not yours. Not yours. And if you don't keep it 100 by them, then you not straight. See, it's not a book that this is written down. It's not no code that is written down somewhere where you can go read it and you can research and say, oh, I can live by this. Or no, I can't live by this. It's not written down anywhere. It is based on the understanding that the person that has the power to do something to you understands what's going on. And if they decide that you did not do right by them, guess what? They're going to do wrong by you. And usually that means getting beat up real bad or losing your life. Now Jack Spook, he get all up on the door. He ain't talking to the peon no more. I mean, to the gang member no more, because the gang member has laid it out to him, and he's been locked up long enough to know what that means. So he gets on the door and he screams out for the pod officer. He said, "Officer, I need to talk to you." So the officer comes up to the door and he said, "Man, I need to talk to IA." He tried to whisper it. But the gang member right next door to him, he got his ears on him, right? And when you in the hole, let me tell you something about being in the hole, right? When you've been in the hole on max for a while, you develop a keen sense of hearing. You develop a keen sense of hearing, right? So the gang member, he been in and out of the hole. He got his ear up on the door. He right next door to Jack. And when Jack whispers out, "I need to see IA," the gang member hears it. He said, "Oh," he screams out. That's what you do in the hole, right? Scream out. "Oh, we got one trying to run. We got one trying to talk to the IA." And then the officer, he's still leaning on the door. The officer don't care one way or the other. This is part of his job. He said, "Are you sure?" And then Jack tells him, "Yeah." He said, "Okay, I'm going to go call him." So he goes downstairs. 5 or 10 minutes later, this is how they do when they try to be slick. They come in the pod. 2 officers come in the pod. They get Jack up out of there, take him out. They escort him to an area where ain't nobody else at. And it's just going to be him and IA. They take him out there. He's talking to IA. He's laying it all down for him. But he tells them he wants to be put in protective custody in exchange for it. So the IA said, "We got you. But you're going to have to testify to this." And now Jack is scared. He said, "But y'all got to protect me." He said, "Man, we're going to protect you as much as we can. But you know what it is in this lifestyle. You know what it is in the penitentiary. We can do what we can do." Because let me tell you something about being in protective custody, y'all. The gangs will send somebody into protective custody after you. It ain't no getting away. But that's the only shot he has. That's the only shot he has. He has too much time to think that he can go to any other penitentiary with this particular gang and nothing happened to him. His goose is cooked. I'm telling you, his goose is cooked. So now, he's in the back in PC with the peon. And the peon comes to the door. He said, "Hey, man, what's going on?" So now Jack mad at him. Jack want to call him all kind of boys and this and that and all that old kind of stuff, right? And he said, "Man, what you hollering at me for? What you talking crazy to me for?" Because now the peon is almost like the peon don't really understand what's going on. It's almost like he can't get it. And Jack trying to tell him, man, he said, "Man, you done got both of us killed, man. You done got both of us killed." And then the peon tell him, he said, "No, all we got to do is testify against the officer and we going to be straight." And Jack telling me that it don't matter if we testify against the officer. We ain't going to be straight. We not getting out the penitentiary today. He said they not finna let us out of the penitentiary because we finna testify against this officer. And the peon keeps saying, it don't matter, we gonna be straight. Because he don't want to accept it. You gotta remember, he's thinking with an addicted mind. Thinking with an addicted mind. He can't seem to shake the idea that he in some trouble. He can't accept it. He can't absorb that. It ain't sinking in. It ain't sinking in. All that dope he done fried something up there. He got the sense God gave a peanut, man. I'm telling you now. But Jack, he know. He know what's going to happen. And he know how it's going to happen. It's going to be ugly, it's going to be fast, and it's going to hurt. And it's going to hurt. But the only thing about it, he don't know when it's going to happen. It can happen tomorrow. It can happen a year from now. It can happen 5 years from now. But it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Because the game have decided what the rules are. What it means to be real. You understand what I'm saying? What it means to be loyal to something that you don't even belong to. They've decided that. And when you get it, when you go into business with them, that's the part that you need to understand. That it's going to be a price for this. And it's not going to be cheap. It's not going to be cheap at all. But at the end of the day, you have to decide if that's what you want. If you're willing to pay that price. Because most people don't even know that that's the price of admission to the big dance. It's just what it is. It's just what it is. So now, it's time to go to court. Months and months and months have passed. They've been arraigned, the officer has been arraigned, you know what I'm saying, for various different charges, you know what I'm saying? And now it's time for him to go to court. And when he goes to court, they show up at court. They get up on the stand and they testify to all the different things. This is a preliminary hearing. Preliminary hearing, that's before the trial, right? They want to make sure there's enough evidence to bound over to the grand jury so they can indict for the situation, right? So they got up in there and they're talking all this and that, and they're telling them what it is that they were doing and what they were doing for him and on his behalf and anything like that, right? And he has a great lawyer. He has a great lawyer. So they asked the state, do they have any evidence, any proof at all about what he did other than these two inmates that are testifying to it? And the truth of the matter was no. They had none of the drugs. They had none of the phones. You feel what I'm saying? They had none of the things that they could directly tie to him. Yeah, the books look suspicious, but his lawyer told into that, right? Because the books at the penitentiary are always suspicious. The tape meant nothing. They argued against the tape, and the tape didn't do enough. So the judge, because they had two inmates testifying, they wanted more corroborating evidence. You can accept the testimony of an inmate, but you have to have something to corroborate and back it up. You have to have something to corroborate and back it up. And that statement, you would think it would have been enough, but it wasn't. It wasn't. And the charges were dismissed, and he got his job back. Yeah, got his job back. But guess what? Jack and the peon, now the peon started to understand that they ain't straight. They are not going to be straight. Now they got to figure out what they're going to do. Because it's coming. It's coming. So they had a choice to make. The warden and all of them went in the back and they asked them, did they want to be transferred to another facility so they wouldn't have to spend the duration of their time on PC, because Jack had another 15 or so, something like that to do. The peon had another 5 or 6 to do. That's a long time to stay in the back. So they asked them, you know what I'm saying, that they want to be transferred somewhere else and all this whole kind of stuff, right? And of course they said that they wanted to be transferred, but they didn't want to be thrown out on the compound. Remember, they crossed out a game. So they stayed in the back for a few years hoping that everybody would forget. Then they got put on the compound somewhere else, and as soon as they came on the compound, people started talking. Because anytime anybody goes to a compound, anybody knew, for any reason, when you get to a compound, people start asking who you are, where you came from, and what's going on with you. And all of these questions made the peon spooked. Made him spook. So he started saying things that didn't even make no sense, right? So it made people more curious and they started to look into it. And then it was somebody that was at the other prison that was a peon that knew the situation, and he started telling people because it made him feel like he was important. Now that these other gangs at this particular compound were listening to him, he was like, yeah, I remember them. They were down there and then they told on the officer, and then they told on, they went and testified in court and all this and that. And next thing you know, They writing letters back to the other penitentiary, the gang members, the gang leaders are, and they trying to confirm this story because they just not going to take the peon's word. So when they get the letters back from the other gangs, like, yeah, man, take care of that. Jumping Jack Flash. I'm telling you, it went down. They started hitting them boys so much, man, and so fast they didn't know which way to run. And they ended up on PC. The peon ended up getting out of the penitentiary a few years later after he finished his time on PC. And then Jack did the same thing. A long time in the back on PC. But he ended up getting out. And now both of them out on the streets. Now they didn't do nothing to them when they got out. They live in a different area, smaller town, so on and so forth. And you can tell anybody whatever spin on the story you want to tell them. But they're out there now. They're out there now on the streets. What's up, y'all? And they're doing okay from what I heard. And I want to put it to you like this. They both learned that this is not the lifestyle that they wanted to even associate with. And that's what I'm telling you. The penitentiary hustle ain't all it's cracked up to be. Oh yeah, you getting money. In the meantime, in between time, you laying a foundation that if anything goes wrong, down goes Frazier. It's time to pay the piper. So you got to be careful about all that, getting involved in things that are extracurricular in here. Be mindful of that and what can happen to you. And even if you can take the heat, I still recommend that you stay out of the kitchen. Just do your time. Just do your time and go home. You feel me? Leave all that other stuff alone. This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all.
I'm getting